Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys Podcast. This is episode 2 of our Freeloader series. If you don't know what a freeloader is possibly someone like you. If this is the first episode you listen to True Crime Guys, you're just listening for free. Totally cool. Load up on this content for free. And then when you get tired or when you get caught up on it, you can go to patreon.com/truecrimeguys and you get a load more. Like probably close to like 30 more episodes now, plus a bunch of other bonus content that we have on there. Outtakes. We have another smaller show called Higher Thoughts. It's a good time over there. But anyways, for those of you that can't support the podcast in that way, no big deal. But we'd also like to let this hard work that we've put into these episodes be heard by some of you. And, so be it 2 years later from the release. But hey, it's better than nothing. And this is, it's a good way to stay in touch with you guys on our off weeks. So, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. You can sign up there for $2 a month, get you access to all the episodes. There's higher tiers for other rewards, whatever. But guys, this is the Milwaukee Cannibal, Jeffrey Dahmer. I hope you all enjoy it. You bunch of freeloaders.
In ninth grade, in biology class, we had the usual dissection of fetal pigs, and I took the remains of that home and kept the skeleton of it, and I just started branching out. Dogs, cats. I suppose it could have turned into a normal hobby like taxidermy. All I know is that I wanted to see what the insides of these animals looked like. There may have been some violence involved, some underlying subconscious feelings of violence. It was a compulsion. It became a compulsion. It was a relief not to have to keep such a gigantic secret that I had kept for so many years. And once I saw that I had no choice but to face it, I decided to face it head on and make a full confession. So I am glad that the secrets are gone. I just get angry with other people who think that they have a right to somehow try to blame my parents for what happened. That's not right at all. No one has the right to do that because they're totally innocent. They had no knowledge of it, and that angers me. There comes a point where a person has to be accountable for what he's done. Can't go around making excuses, blaming other people or other things. So I alone am the one who is responsible for what's happened. The only motive that there ever was to completely control a person that I found physically attractive, and keep them with me as long as possible, even if it meant just keeping a part of them.
All right, our case this week, one that I'd looked forward to doing when we switched over from True Crime Las Vegas to True Crime Guys many moons ago.
Right.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Ah, never heard of him.
One of my favorites. Never heard of the guy, huh?
No, that's weird.
He liked to eat people.
Yeah?
He's a creep.
Was he?
He's a true creeper.
Did he even kill anybody?
When you compare his kill count to some of the guys that we've done on this show,
Not that impressive.
It's not that impressive, but the way in which he did it was so disturbing to the average human that it made him infamous.
Right. Well, he didn't really enjoy the kill.
Yeah, we got plenty of time to talk about that.
Yeah, do we?
Why he killed, I think so.
I'm on a schedule, so.
You got to go?
Yeah.
All right, well, he killed people, he ate them, pickled their penises, and that's about it. See you later. Thanks for paying to be here. Well, you want to get into him, Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah, I don't want to get into him, but we can talk about him.
if he ate you. Nice. I got it. I get that one. It's a good joke.
Thanks, bro.
All right. So he was born May 21st, 1960. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer. He was born at the Evangelical Deaconess Hospital in Milwaukee.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
Such a crazy name for a hospital.
It suits him.
It's very elaborate.
Yeah. His parents were Joyce Annette and Lionel Herbert Dahmer. His mother was a teletype machine instructor, one of those old school jobs.
Really? What is that exactly?
She just like typed shit.
Oh.
For like, I think she was like send messages through computers, and she would like, I don't know, man. It was some weird early computer
Through
stuff.
computers in the 70s?
This is 60s.
60s, Jesus.
You know the computers that take up an entire room?
Yeah.
That's what I picture.
She was like running around all quick, pulling levers and pushing buttons and shit.
Pulling little pins out of holes and like putting them in
honey, I'm exhausted. I've been running around the computer all day.
She was dramatic like that, too. She probably did do that.
Oh, yeah. I heard she was heavily medicated for most of her life.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
All right.
The father, we mentioned his name was Lionel.
Right.
He was kind of a student through most of Jeff's childhood. He was going to, for his degrees in chemistry and looking to make great money and take care of the family. It was kind of a rough. It was a
rocky start.
It was rocky because he was always
gone,
busy doing school, and they ended up having to move quite a bit because of that for him to get grants and everything.
I feel like this is common in American families. Like I don't think this is. You can't go and be like, oh, well, his father wasn't there. Maybe if his father was there more. I mean, this is a rocky start that
Daddy
most
wasn't
American
there.
families, I think, had.
Oh,
trying to
absolutely.
build that career. Mm-hmm. There's going to be, you get what you work for, you get what you pay for. So
yeah,
And
the further you go into this, his dad was always there for Jeff, like
right.
always. Right. I feel like he really did the best he could. His mother, it was a tough pregnancy with Jeff. She suffered different bouts of paralysis during the pregnancy. She was given injections of barbiturates and morphine, and she also was believed to have had pretty severe postpartum depression after the pregnancy. She just I don't know, anxiety. She had a lot of issues,
Right.
I think she gave the father a lot of problems too. Just like he would come home, and I think she'd just get all over his case and everything. I don't know. That's the vibe I got. Yeah, the more I read, the more I watched and heard, it was just like, I'm not trying to put any blame on the mom. I'm just saying like she had her own issues, and maybe genetically she passed on some of her
anxiety.
Some things, social anxiety and stuff like that onto Dahmer. And it seemed like he was a perfect cocktail, like of what could go wrong if you have a kid and the kid ends up with your worst sides of both your personalities.
Yeah,
because like the dad, he's a chemist.
Yeah,
so it's like you got Dahmer who's doing all these experiments, and then you got his mom who's got like these social anxieties and she's got like some mental issues.
Right. So you combine the two.
Yeah, like sometimes I worry about that with
fucking Breaking Bad over here.
Yeah, I worry about that with my wife and I. Like if the kid got the worst sides of both of us, like what would happen? And I don't think it'd be Dahmer. I'd hope not.
No, your kid's just gonna be running around clapping all loud and shit.
But you think, yeah, Mike sees that side of me when he gets here, and I'm fucking.
Lauren is like wide open when I get here in the morning. He's like, "All right, let's go."
And then by the time the show starts, I'm done.
Dude, I need like fucking 5 cups of coffee just to be at regular speed right now.
Try living with me. I drive my wife nuts, man. Okay, so. We talked about the mother suffering from postpartum depression. In 1962, the Dahmers moved to Ames, Iowa. Jeffrey's father was going there to work on his PhD. That was where he could go to get grants because it was real competitive in the college field as far as getting grants for his field in chemistry and stuff. And he would go wherever it would help him financially to get
he had to go where the grants were.
Right. So they moved to Iowa. In 1964, Jeffrey was diagnosed with a double hernia in his scrotum. Now, this is, one of those moments.
This is part of the
young kid surgery
that ruined a lot of his morale as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
He's 4 years old at this time.
Yeah. And the move, too. It's changing a lot of things. And his mother probably didn't help the situation. I'm sure she was stressed out about it as well. I'm sure they all were as a family. But then as a 4-year-old and, you see your parents who are usually your comfort and your support are stressed out as well and working hard, and then you went through this surgery, and so now you feel different.
Yeah, it said that he was in extreme pain before and after the surgery, and it may have influenced later feelings of sexual inadequacy and insecurity.
Huh.
Also, I read that he feared that during this time that he was going to lose his penis, and his dad had to kind of like reinforce that he was going to be fine down there and everything was going to be It's going to be fine.
That's odd.
But 4 years old, you said you had a thing about like stuff going on downstairs, like genitalia, like it freaks you out, like anything happening, any kind of wrong, like cancer down there.
I don't like talking about it.
So maybe he had that thing that you had where you're like overly protective over your junk.
Well, I didn't feel like I was going to lose anything. Right. I just don't like talking about it.
Do you think it could have messed you up if when you were 4 you had to have this kind of surgery?
I don't know. I don't think I would have known the difference at 4.
You don't think you'd be like eating people later on if that happened to you when you were 4?
Possibly.
Okay.
So
that's good insight.
We'll leave it out there, I guess.
Yeah. His father, Lionel, claimed that during this time, when they were moving around and then he had the surgery, that Jeffrey began to become more introverted and withdrawn. Like when he was younger, so they start moving around. He's 4, 5, 6 years old.
He started out as like a real bubbly kid.
Yeah, exactly.
He loved life. He was high energy and full of fun and joy, and
like always like interested in the wonders of everything, like how things worked. That never changed. He always wanted to know how things worked inside out, Yeah. And so they also moved again in November of 1966. They moved to Doylestown, Ohio. I believe this is when his father got a job. So they went from Wisconsin to Iowa for him to get through college and get his grants and stuff. And then he got through college and got a job doing exactly what he wanted in Doylestown,
this was the time
Ohio.
that Jeff's dad had always promised that things will calm down once I get a job. Things will calm down. Things will become more.
The marriage
regular.
was on the rocks during school because it was so tough, and his wife was lonely and everything, and so now he gets the job, and things got better for a little while. Jeff's still struggling though. He's struggling with yet another move. He had like a neighbor friend at the previous house, I believe, in Iowa that he really liked, and then when he moved there, he became even more detached.
Right.
So they started doing things to try and help him along and like cheer him up. They got him a dog named Frisky. Yeah. Which he loved. They also, when they were pregnant with their second child, they allowed Jeff to choose the name for his baby brother. He chose David. His younger brother David was born on December 18th.
Dang, that was a ballsy move. I mean, he could have chose anything. He could have chose anything.
Being sarcastic?
Yeah, no.
What's wrong with David?
No, I mean, he could have chose anything. Like, Jeffrey made a good decision.
Oh, okay.
But he could have chose anything.
Yeah.
It's like, Jeffrey, why
letting
don't
a
you name your brother?
Letting a 6-year-old...
Skittles. Megatron.
Skittles. Or Frisky. Apparently this pregnancy was rough as well for the mother. And then in 1968, the family moved to Bath, Ohio. So they stayed in Ohio. They moved to another town. Here, this is one of those weird moments that his father would recall later on, going back to Jeff's childhood. And I think his father was overthinking every little thing that happened, but he recalls...
Later on.
Yeah.
Not now.
After knowing what eventually happened,
Right.
But his father recalls a time where when they moved to their new house in Bath, Ohio, like pulling some like dead animal bones out from underneath the house's crawl space.
Yeah.
And Jeff just was obsessed with like the sound that the bones made.
Yeah, that's so weird, the sound. Like that's one of like every article I read, they were like, he was obsessed with the sound. Like
they do have kind of a
sound.
They have kind of a hollow clinking. I get it.
Yeah, I guess so. But I feel like you'd be more obsessed with like what it looks like.
Right.
You'd be more obsessed like, oh shit, that's the inside of something that was alive. Like I feel like that would have been the first response. But the sound is just
maybe he killed all those dudes because he wanted like a bone drum set. He was putting it together.
Yeah, like a little xylophone.
Exactly. I think we got to the bottom of this.
Yep.
That's the end of the show.
All right.
So he witnesses his father pulling the bones out of the house, and now, like later on, once Jeff was in prison, his father starts recalling all these little things, and like it seems so sinister now.
Yeah.
The fact that he was so obsessed with these bones, when it seemed real innocent to him, his dad really looked for anything to Jeff to be interested in because Jeff was just so disinterested in general. Yeah. That like when he found something that Jeff liked, he would try to like.
Well, not only that. I mean, this is he's interested in biology and chemistry because he would clean these bones and he was, and obviously the chemicals used to clean these bones and bleach them or whatever. Like his dad used these chemicals daily, so he was like, "Hey, my son's taking interest in the things that I like to do."
So what you're talking about was the moment when Jeff came up to his dad and they were eating. I believe they were eating a chicken dinner. And Jeff asked if what would happen if they bleached the bones or how to preserve the bones or whatever. Right. And so his dad, said, "Hey, my son's actually showing interest in something."
Exactly.
And so after dinner, they took the bones out, and his father showed him how to bleach and preserve these bones.
Right. And that's a normal reaction for parents. I mean, you obviously you want to see the best in your kid no matter what happens.
Right.
No matter what happens. We talked about this before.
Right.
Like when you have other people's kids around and they're doing something, you're like, man, that kid is a little shit.
Right.
Like, that kid's a little brat. But like your kid can be doing the exact same thing, and then the next day he's like, I love you, Dad. And you're like, man, you are the greatest fucking kid I have ever met in my entire life.
Bring me one of them bicep chops.
I have the best kid. Bring me that dead bird. Let's just go ahead and chop it up here together.
Yeah. What is that? A dog head on a stick? That's so cute.
Bring that here, kid.
Yeah. So during the 1970s, Jeffrey's mother was hospitalized twice for psychiatric problems. Anxiety is one of the ones that I read that she just couldn't deal with day-to-day life, I guess, during this time. Now, I'm not sure if she's still working. I want to say she's a stay-at-home mom after these moves went down.
Right.
You know, so I think
which is strange.
I think boredom was a lot of it.
It seemed, yeah, maybe. It seems like they had their shit together as far as like a normal middle-class family at this point. But
the problem was she was stuck at home. She didn't have Netflix.
Right.
You know,
and,
she probably was stuck watching the same 3 fucking channels.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
just thinking I'd get anxiety too if I'm stuck at home and I got no channels. I got no channels.
You got 2 little kids running around with animal bones.
Right. Mommy, bleach these for me. What? Get out of here, kid. Okay, so according to Lionel, she had been taking drugs to deal with her extreme nervousness for years, but they didn't work well. During this time, Jeff's in his early teens. He starts finding animal carcasses in the woods and bringing them home to experiment on them. So this is probably didn't help, but he's trying to bond with his mom over animal carcasses, and his dad's off at work.
Hey, it worked for Norman Bates, right?
Hey,
nobody's closer to their mom than Norman Bates. Look at
Bates Motel. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, obviously.
See, I don't watch that show.
Oh,
heard it's good.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely good.
Yeah. Dahmer would dismember the animals and store the parts in jars in the family's wooden tool shed.
But see, even this wasn't one of the McDonald triads.
Yeah.
It wasn't, which are bedwetting, killing of animals, and arson.
Yeah.
So this isn't technically killing of animals because he loved his pets. He didn't hurt his pets or anything like that. Like he was just obsessed.
He was experimenting with roadkill mainly at this time
and
like animals that died.
Yeah, he was kind of fascinated with just dead living.
Now there's people that say that he claimed that he killed his neighbor's dogs, but there's no evidence to actually prove this. People said a lot of shit later on.
It doesn't really line up.
No.
With the rest of the story at this point.
Right.
Like maybe later on, but even later on, I don't think that would be something.
Someone said that he had his neighbor's dog's head on a stick, like the skull, and I was like,
I heard that, but I didn't hear it was a neighbor's dog, and it could have just been a roadkill dog.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a neighbor's dog. Jesus.
Yeah. He was always explaining that he was curious as to how the animals fitted together, which I get. I've been hunting, and it's amazing to me when you quarter up an animal and you cut them up that it's like. It's almost like a machine. Like everything has its place, and it is interesting. I don't think this is all that strange for a kid right now.
Yeah, you justify it how you need to, Lauren. I mean, it's fine.
You know, don't check my closet.
It's fine.
At 14 or 15 years old, he realized that he was homosexual and having thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And this was part of an interview that he did later on while in prison. He really broke down how this. I think the problem was he was so obsessed with dissecting animals and stuff right when he was hitting puberty and his sexual tendencies started to come through.
Right.
And you mix that with the fact that he was gay and this is the 70s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was almost more accepted to be obsessed with dead animals than it was to be gay.
Right.
Yeah. So it was like this weird.
So everything that he knew and went like by nature seemed wrong.
Right.
You know? And then they just intermingled together, I think, and created this.
What did that say about society?
Perfect storm.
It's like you think if he would have grown up like now, where I'm not saying it's easy for gay people now, but it's definitely easier than it was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And now there's like a lot more, it's a little more accepted, especially in certain areas. So.
Right. Probably more accepted than playing with dead animals.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would say so.
By quite a bit.
Around this time, he begins high school at Revere High School in Bath, Ohio. In 9th grade, his class dissected pigs, and he took the skeleton of the pig home. And this is where I think the whole skull on a stick thing came from.
You think so? Think it was a pig?
Could have been a pig head.
But those pigs that you dissect in school are so tiny, though. They're basically like a pig fetus that's not quite fully developed.
Really?
Yeah.
See, we did an owl pellet. I don't think I ever did a actual like carcass of an animal or anything like that.
Yeah, we did.
We might have done a freaking mouse though.
Mouse?
We might have done a rodent.
You done a mouse?
We might have done a rodent.
Sure, it wasn't a frog.
Could have been.
Frogs are the.
We definitely dissected an owl pellet, which is harmless.
Well, we did pigs, and they were like, I don't know, what,
10 inches, 12 inches?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Just
So he might have had a
pigs.
little tiny pig head on a
Vacuum
stick.
sealed in bags.
He might have had a little tiny pig head on a stick. So
I want to know how the hell he got it home.
His backpack.
It's like, Jeffrey, where's your pig? Oh, I already threw it away.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it's not in the trash. Yeah, I threw it away. Is that the bell?
Yeah, right. The teacher's just like, I don't even want to know.
I don't even want to know.
This kid scares me.
Yeah, right.
He was jerking off over the pig earlier in class. I don't want to know.
I don't know. You don't know how to approach him.
Now, people think, I think just initially when you start studying Dahmer, you figure that he was like a complete standalone in school. Like he didn't talk to anyone. He was off on his own.
No, not the case.
Not necessarily the case. He was known around school. He was well known for just being a prankster, kind of like me, like clapping randomly, like running through halls and like making noise and shit. I think what we're discovering is that I'm Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer.
We're discovering a lot in this podcast, Lauren.
He was actually really respectful to teachers, somewhat of an average student, except for classes that piqued his interest,
Right.
such as biology, chemistry.
Right.
Yeah, things that...
Anatomy, I'm sure.
Anatomy, yeah, he'd be a big fan of that. At 16 years old, he devised a plan to knock out a jogger with a bat and spend time with the unconscious body.
Yeah, this is like a jogger that was going by his house every single day.
Right.
I guess he would just stare out the window at him.
So this is where...
Shirtless.
Sweaty. That's a big jump. That's a big jump, man. That's a big Now, we
jump.
talked about how when he was 14 or 15, he started realizing that he was gay, and then he started having these thoughts, intermingled sex with violence, and this is him taking that leap to maybe make it a reality. But I think he was still not quite ready, and he chickened out. Now, there's a lot of sources that say that the jogger didn't run by that day, and so he just gave up the idea, and it's like, I think he just chickened out.
You think so?
I don't think he was ready
You don't
yet.
think he ran by?
No.
Yeah, that would be...
Because why wouldn't he just go back the next day, Like if this jogger kept going by every day, and then the day he chooses the guy didn't run by, and then just come out the next day and wait.
Well, it's probably like when he got it to him, he's like, holy fuck, this jogger is a fucking man. Like he's in much better shape than me.
Right.
And he jogs every day.
Yeah, for real.
It's like it probably whooped my 14-year-old ass.
Yeah.
Or 16 at the time.
So either way, it doesn't happen. And now he's beginning to drink real heavily while in high school.
This actually started at like 14.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, he was carrying a flask in his army jacket at like 14, right?
Right. But he's trying to...
He was a badass
bury
in high
these... I think he's trying to bury, because we talked about how he had all these feelings, and he knew that he wouldn't be accepted if he was like open about his interests.
Yeah.
Gay sex mixed with violence, dissecting animals.
Yeah, when asked about his alcoholism, I mean, he would say, even at that age, like, it's my medicine.
Yeah.
I can't be without it.
Right.
He was already self-medicating at 14 years old. I mean, he knew he was suppressing some serious shit. I mean...
Yeah, so he's always drunk at school. Other kids know. And they go, when he's in high school, they go on a trip. His class goes on a field trip to Washington, D.C.
Right.
It's pretty badass. I never went on a field trip like that. We'd go to like the Hoover Dam or something.
Well, I did, but I was on the East Coast, so it was kind of close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that big of a trip, so.
Right. Well, on this trip, you have to go off of what you have, different sources and stuff, but there's different conflicting reports on what happened on this trip.
Right.
Supposedly he called up the vice president while on the trip. Like he told the kids, like, I'm gonna get us to meet the vice president. And he calls up, I don't know how you call the vice president, like on a phone.
Right.
Anyways, supposedly gets the vice president to come down and meet with the class.
Bullshit.
And then there's other sources that say that he just prank called the vice president.
That's what I
some
heard.
Shit.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like, it was his former students that came out with this story years later.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them were just trying to get their name in the fucking
probably
limelight,
they just want to be like, what can I make up the diff?
There's one dude that like claimed to be a friend of Dahmer's when he was younger and like came out and wrote a book. I didn't read that book.
I didn't know.
I think it's called My Friend Dahmer.
Oh,
yeah,
typical.
And it just seemed to me like he was trying to.
It may be a good book. I don't know. We didn't read it.
It might be.
Check it out.
It might
be
like
Dahmer.
But I don't know. It didn't seem like he had any that close of friends that you could write a full book on. Like, I knew the guy so well.
I feel like Dahmer was that kid that certain people thought he was cool just because of the shit that he did. But if he didn't do all this crazy acting out shit, he wouldn't have any friends.
Right.
He wouldn't have any. If he didn't drink in school, and I also heard that he like drew chalk outlines of bodies like in the halls and stuff.
He was
like,
a bad boy.
Yeah. If he didn't do this shit, I don't think he would have any friends.
Right.
People love to watch him and laugh at him more than.
But they weren't
actually
hanging out
befriend
with him necessarily.
Yeah, when school's over, he's going home lonely in his army jacket with his flask, I think.
I mean, not lonely. He's got his dog.
He's got his dog's head on a stick. I mean, he's got that you can talk to.
Right.
But he preferred immobile life anyways, right?
Right. Do you want to talk about the sources we used for this real quick? Since we always end up doing this in the middle of it. And
No.
We read the book by Jack
Rosewood.
Jack Rosewood.
One of our favorite authors.
Yeah, I like him, man. He doesn't skimp out on the gritty details, but he also seems to have most things factually correct.
Yeah.
We've read some. I think was it William Bonin. We read his book on William Bonin and enjoyed that. Several of the episodes we've done.
Was it Night Stalker? Was that also a...
No, that was Philip Carlo.
Philip Carlo.
Great fucking book.
Yeah, that is amazing book.
Yeah. So we read Jack Rosewood's book on Jeffrey Dahmer.
But it's Jeffrey Dahmer, A Terrifying True Story of Rape, Murder, and Cannibalism. It's the book by Jack Rosewood.
We watched several documentaries on YouTube and Netflix.
Yeah, I watched the Dahmer Files. It was that
one wasn't all that great.
It was okay.
There was a biography documentary on him that was really good. I enjoyed that one.
Good. I'm glad.
Biography usually does good work.
Yeah.
As well as years back, I didn't watch that this week, but years back I watched the Jeremy Renner movie Dahmer.
Yeah.
Good movie. From
need
what
to
I can
check that
remember.
out.
It's been a while since I watched it, but I remember being,
Yeah.
that's kind of when I started really getting into Dahmer was when I watched that years back.
Yeah, I had
it's just some
somebody
creepies.
actually-
It shows him working day to day in the chocolate factory, and then the shit that he was doing back at his apartment. It's just like
stirring chocolate. The Dahmer Files does that.
Really?
It's kind of odd. Like it shows. Okay, so here's where it picks up. It picks up with like him getting arrested, like in real life, like it's real footage. And then you got like the detective, you got one neighbor, and then you have the ME, the medical examiner at the time, doing interviews. Okay, now that's all real stuff. And then there's mixed in footage, real. But then on side notes in between, it's just reenactments of Dahmer living his normal life. So it's really hard to follow.
Was that the one that at the beginning it had him walking through a fish store?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I turned it off. I was like, "This is stupid." I can't.
Yeah, he's like looking at piranhas.
That guy didn't seem to capture Dahmer's essence to me.
No,
I right away I was like, "This isn't Dahmer. Like this guy's way too goofy to be Dahmer."
Yeah, he wasn't charismatic enough.
No,
he wasn't believable enough. But yeah, it was hard to follow because it kept going back to like Dahmer like buying fish, and then it would be like he's being arrested carrying out of his apartment in real life, and then it's like Dahmer in the chocolate factory, and then it's like Dahmer being interviewed.
Yeah,
it's just it was hard to follow.
Yeah,
you just had to separate the two in your mind and be like, here's a glimpse at what this guy was. Here's what actually happened.
The guy that they chose.
Here's a glimpse of what we think maybe happened. Here's what actually happened.
The guy that they chose to portray him to me, I was not buying it right away, and I'm like, I'm not watching this if this guy's like. This is their portrayal of Dahmer, then I'm not watching this. This is not how I picture him in my mind. Jeremy Renner did a much better job.
They made him seem way too weird, like way too weird. And I think in public, people say it all the time. They would have never guessed. No way.
Right.
Not the guy in apartment 213.
Because he was always drunk and just like chill, just a normal dude. Like I think he was able to keep it together because he was always drunk and just like he would just make light of everything. I think that's just how I picture it.
Yeah.
And he was able to talk his way out of a lot of shit. Naturally, as serial killers, like successful serial killers do, they talk their way out of shit.
He was a very functional alcoholic for sure.
Oh yeah, he'd been well practiced.
He could almost turn his drunkenness on and off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when he grew up. As a teenager in the 70s in middle America, up in Milwaukee and Ohio and stuff, back then, I think the legal drinking age was 18, right?
It was.
But they were real lax, like most...
rarely enforced.
Yeah, most corner stores and grocery stores would sell to teenagers and not ID them. Cops, if they caught you, they would just take your alcohol stash and bring you home.
And then finish it.
Right. So it wasn't that uncommon for kids to be drinking while going to school and stuff like that back then. Right. But he was doing it every day, all day, or a day.
All the days.
All the days. And in June 4th, 1978, Jeff graduated from high school. During this time, his parents were going through an extremely bitter divorce. They were fighting over custody of his younger brother. They couldn't fight for Jeff because he was already 18 and custody of him was for himself at that point.
And they were probably like, Jeff, who do you want to go with? He was like, yeah, whatever.
Right? Who's got
the most booze?
Who's got the house next to the woods so I can find
he
bodies?
stayed there. He stayed in the family home.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting thing is when he graduated high school and around 18, he had his parents' house to himself. It was a weird thing that happened where his mom took his younger brother, David, and moved to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And his father, thinking that his wife was still living in the house, left and started living in a motel. Right. And they didn't really communicate, so neither of them knew that Jeff's got the house to himself, free reign.
I think they just left Jeff there because they wanted to stake claim to the house. They're like, we don't want to lose the house just in case things work out, or maybe we want to sell it and split the profits later.
You think the dad
We need
knew?
somebody to kind of
To me, it makes perfect sense that the dad would go live in a motel if he thought his wife was still living there, just to get out of her hair or whatever. But like, I can't picture them. Why would his dad stay in a motel if Jeff's like, if the house is empty and just Jeff is there?
Maybe he doesn't want to be in the house. Maybe it's a reminder of failed marriage.
Yeah, perhaps. You know,
Plus,
it's another case where one source you read or hear, it says one thing and the other. But
I just find it hard to believe that his dad just left one day and never went back to the house and was like, oh, well, she's there, so I'm never going back. I mean, I just find it hard to believe. Maybe he left and was like, oh, I forgot one of my beakers.
Oh, yeah.
I got to go back and complete this chemistry set.
Naturally, chemist, that's all he's always worried about his beakers.
Right. And then he would walk in and see Jeffrey and be like, oh, Jeffrey, you're still here. Where's
Is
your
that
mom?
bones in my beaker?
Is that... Are you cleaning bones in my beaker? Don't you know you got to use a round beaker?
Yeah. And so not long, naturally, after he's got the house to himself, it's just going to happen now. He's got the means for this to happen. His whole jogger fantasy is going to come true.
Right.
And he's fighting the urges, but on June 18th, 1978, he's driving to a liquor store to get a refill of whatever liquor of choice he was into at that time. All of them.
The cheap one. Cheap shit. According to the documentary.
Yeah. So he makes a quick trip to the liquor store, and on the way back, he sees 19-year-old Stephen Mark Hicks hitchhiking,
right.
Now jogging. Or no, he was hitchhiking. He was going to a rock concert.
He was hitchhiking to a rock concert.
Yeah.
But this is also something that Jeffrey said that he had been dreaming about, or almost imagining, like this whole scenario.
A shirtless, young, strapping lad.
Yeah.
Roadside.
Well, I don't know about
shirtless
and strapping, but
you're never going to catch me. Slow motion, Baywatch running.
Yeah. No, he... But he imagined like a hitchhiker out in the middle of nowhere on a back road or something, and him driving by and then, picking him up.
Yep.
And then it happened, and then he was like, "Oh shit!"
Now I picture him. He picks him up, and Stephen Hicks. His family claims he was not gay. He wouldn't have gone back to the house for an offer of money or anything like that. It was, and he had somewhere he was going, but basically what happened was Jeff offered him a few beers and a ride, and he's like, "I'll take you where you need to go, but let's go back to my house and have a few beers first for the road. A few road beers." And once
a few road beers.
once back at the house, they hung out, they drank some beers, and it was time. Hicks said he wanted to go. He's got that concert to go to, and this is where the panic set in for Dahmer. That separation. He almost had. I feel like he had like separation anxiety. You ever a dog that has, like my black lab has that severe separation anxiety. When you leave, it freaks out. When you come home, it's freaking out. Like I feel like that he had that fear of being when he found someone that he enjoyed the company of, that he was attracted to.
Yeah.
I think that was his number one motivation. Like if he had found a young, good-looking dude that waited on him, hand and foot, like was always around, like a needy little dude that he really liked, or maybe he wouldn't have liked that type. I don't know. But
as long as he didn't move.
When he really was attracted to another dude and into him, like he just wanted to be. That's all he wanted, just to be in their company. Yeah, and for them to never want to leave him,
and them never move would be great too.
Yeah, if they were like
paraplegic and or quadriplegic, even that'd be better. Just don't move.
Right.
Just don't move and don't talk. Just don't leave.
Yeah. just be you. Just lay there.
Just exist.
Right. And so when Hicks tried to walk out, a struggle ensued. Now in the movie Dahmer with Jeremy Renner, it was like a wrestling match, and then Mark Hicks or Stephen Hicks in the movie was like a wrestler, and he got the upper hand and started to head out the door. And that's pretty similar to what actually happened. Yeah. Dahmer picks up was like a barbell or something like that, or a dumbbell, and strikes him in the back of the head.
Yeah, killing him.
You hit him hard enough that it killed him. Yeah. Like, he was bleeding out. I don't know if it was in the hallway or where it was.
Yeah, because Dahmer was pretty fit at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, he had
he was working out.
He was working out. He was a beast.
Yeah.
So
I picture him getting up, swigging he's got the like liquor of his choice by his bedside, wakes up, swigs that, gets up. It's like doing arm curls in the mirror, and then he's going out looking for a young Stephen Hicks type.
Right.
Yeah. So now he had all the time in the world to have the body to himself because he's in his house. This is really the perfect crime right now because no one knew.
Yep.
I mean, this is the 70s. This is 78. no cell phones. No one knew where this dude was going.
Right.
He was hiking on his own to a rock concert. No one saw Dahmer pick him up, and he had the house to himself. His parents, as far as he knew, weren't coming home anytime soon, and so he had all the time to spend time with the body, which was his number one favorite thing to do when he killed someone. It wasn't about the killing; it was about having that person that you
having that perfectly submissive person,
someone that can't leave.
Right.
Cannot leave. So he spent time with Stephen Hicks's body and masturbated over it. And over the next couple of weeks, he methodically stripped the flesh. Now, he didn't cross that line of actually having sex with the corpse as far as what he later said. He said that at this point he hadn't gone that far yet.
Right.
He hadn't crossed that barrier. It was soon to happen, not too far after that. But at this point, he just masturbated over the body, and then he methodically stripped the flesh off the bones and crushed up the bones and scattered them about. Buried him in the woods, I believe, behind his parents' house.
I think at this time he just buried the skeleton whole. And then not long, his father kind of gave him an ultimatum of get a job or join the army.
Yeah, so after this, his father comes back to the house, realizes that Dahmer had been living alone, moves back in, and starts urging Jeff to get a job, which doesn't work out. He notices his drinking's getting out of hand and pushes him to
join the army.
No, he actually pushes him into college first. Remember, he pushes him to go to, he actually pays for his tuition to go to Ohio
State.
Yeah, he pushes him to go to college, and his dad, since Dahmer didn't really, well, not Dahmer, but Jeff, he didn't have that great of grades. He was not going to get any scholarships or anything, so his dad paid for his tuition to go to Ohio State, which lasted all of one semester.
Must be doing well as a chemist.
Right. Well, luckily for him, financially, Jeff spent all of his time drinking in college and
but I
slacking off.
I think he prepaid like a year though.
Right. That's usually how it goes.
The semester.
Never do that.
Never do that.
Never do that.
See how serious your kid is first. Maybe your kid's not as smart as you think.
Right. And so Jeff drops out of school at Ohio State, and that was after his dad paid a surprise visit to him in college in his dorm and found his room strewn about with empty liquor bottles. And,
Okay, like, is that different than everybody else's college dorm? I mean, I don't get it.
I guess not, but some of them actually do their schoolwork, which apparently seemed to be a problem for Jeff.
Oh, is that why they go?
Jeff didn't care.
All right.
He wasn't doing his schoolwork. He was probably too busy. Well, we forgot to mention that in high school, he actually participated in some sports. Like, he played tennis, and what was the other thing he did? He was in a band.
Yeah,
he was in a high school band and stuff. I just thought I'd mention
and he
that.
Also he jumped in the honor society picture. He
Oh,
wasn't in the club, but
as
he jumped,
clown.
Yeah, he jumped in the picture and was actually photographed in the honor society.
So shortly after he dropped out of college at Ohio State, he moved back with his dad, and his dad had remarried at that point, and his new wife, Lionel's new wife, wasn't really putting up too much with Jeff's excessive drinking. They accepted Jeff living there, but they wanted him to get a job and be productive.
Right.
And eventually, noticing that wasn't going to happen, his father pushed him hard to join the military.
Right.
And so on December 20th, you notice a trend here. Jeff at least listens to his dad, and his dad is able to kind of get Jeff to do what he wants. It seems like always.
Well, he's so just apathetic about everything. He's just like,
all right.
He never fought anything. Yeah.
Right.
He was just so drunk all the time. It was just, hey, Jeff, why don't you go to college? All right, that sounds cool. It's like, Jeff, why don't you join the army? Yeah, it's totally.
You're making him sound like a pothead now.
Yeah, totally. I'll totally do it. Is that more like Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll totally join it.
All right, man, I'll do it. Fucking
fuck it, whatever.
Another hit of the fucking bottle. Yeah, so he joins the army. He's sworn in on December 29th, 1978, and he seemed to be doing pretty well. I mean, he wasn't like a badass by any means. He would end up being transferred from an MP to a medic and assigned to Baumholder, Germany. Now, after boot camp, he came back to visit his father and stuff, and he had bulked up. He seemed happy.
Yeah.
They seen him smiling for the first time in a while.
Right.
Things seemed to be on the right path. I think boot camp was good for him. But then once he got stationed in Germany, and I have a couple friends who went into the army. One of them was stationed in South Korea. One of them was stationed in Germany.
Okay.
And once you get on your base, it just seems like it's
just
more lax. They're not riding your ass as hard, and then your natural tendencies can be Like my buddy, when he was stationed in South Korea, he was drinking like his ass off.
Well, they have everything on the bases. I mean,
They're
have
just
stores, they have bars.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
And they're
is
just
there.
doing their job like 9 to 5 or whatever,
Yep,
and then
yep.
they come back to their barracks and they're just fucking drinking. And like, I think that's when it fell apart for Dahmer, is when he wasn't under strict watch as much.
Yeah, when he left boot camp.
Yeah, and there was 2 soldiers that later claimed to have been raped by Dahmer while in the army. One of them claimed that it had gone on for a 17-month period where Dahmer had repeatedly, I think this might have been like his bunkmate or something, and Dahmer would like freaking drug him, tie him up, and like forcibly rape him. But the dude said that he didn't want to say anything because it was an embarrassment to his family, and he didn't think that
especially being a soldier.
Yeah, and he didn't think that his elder officers would believe him, and it was just back then it was.
I got a good feeling that would have been shoved under the rug.
Yeah,
you know, because this was still a don't ask, don't tell
time.
Yeah,
yeah. Another soldier believed that he was drugged and raped by Dahmer inside of an armored vehicle in 1979. He wouldn't last all that long in the Army. He would, March 26, 1981, he would be honorably discharged from the Army before his enlistment was up because his drinking had reached the point where he simply couldn't function anymore.
That's an honorable discharge?
Yeah, it's just like you said, don't ask, don't tell. Like we're not going to screw your life over for the rest. You know, we're not going to dishonorably discharge you because had they been able to prove rape or something like that, I'm sure. But it was just he wasn't able to do his daily duties anymore because he was always hammered,
right,
and didn't care.
Okay,
and so they basically gave him a one-way ticket to anywhere in the U.S. that he wanted to go. Yeah. And rather than going home, making that walk of shame, being embarrassed that he got booted from the military. He chose to go to South Florida and not tell his parents that he was even like discharged from the Army.
Just sleeping on a beach, right?
Yeah, so he took his one-way ticket to Florida, where he was spending half the time sleeping on the beach and living in hotels. He was working for, I forget what, he got some little job down there. Well, he wasn't doing he moved down there to South Florida to like for a change of scenery, you know, not only to avoid his family, but also because he'd grown up in the Midwest and the winters were so hard, and he wanted to just to live on the beach, and it went well for a while, but then he went back to his natural tendencies of just drinking and not wanting to do anything productive. And after a while, he called his dad in the middle of the night and told him what had been going on and where he was, and his dad basically told him just come home, and so he headed back to Ohio, and once there, his father couldn't deal with him and sent him to live with his grandmother. Now, this is after he was arrested for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest back at home. And so his father, he's probably trying to have this new life with his new wife, and Jeff's just always in the way. And it's like he thought that
the problems that would cause, right.
And I think he thought that having him go live with his grandmother would be good for him. He could have like a more meaning to his life. Like he'd have like a goal every day to take care of his grandmother and have that companionship with her.
Right.
And it seemed to work out well for a bit. It seems like everything in Jeff's life, like at first it would work well, but then he would go back to his natural tendencies. He'd get bored and go back to what he does best, which is drinking. And
he's still searching for what stimulates him, what makes him feel powerful, what makes him feel important,
and he later
can't find it.
And he later said, "I should have used my natural interest in like bones and like anatomy and stuff to be a taxidermist or something like that."
Right.
And he should have found a passion that worked for his interests. There were
Norman Bates,
right, or he could have been he could have worked for a morgue or something like that.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure he'd be great with dead bodies.
He would have been, doing some things.
You'd want him to take care of your loved ones, I'm sure.
Hey, they're dead. They can't do anything.
Wow.
I feel like once I'm dead, fuck me if you want. I don't care.
Like literally, it's like whatever. I'm dead.
Right? I'm not here anymore.
I'm not using that shit.
So he's living with his grandmother. It's going well. He's actually going to church. He's obeying her rules. But it was just a matter of time. He actually found a job in early 1982 as a phlebotomist.
Yeah, because of his military experience as
a medic.
This
is one of those jobs. Yeah, it helped him get in there because he was a medic in the Army. And it was at the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center. We forgot to mention that when he moved in with his grandmother lives in Milwaukee where he was born. So he went from Ohio over to Milwaukee, and he's living in Wisconsin with his grandmother.
Right.
So while there, he's working at the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center. And I just feel like that there was actually a moment also where he took a bag of the blood home and drank it. While he's working at the.
Well, you'd be curious around that much blood.
Yeah,
be curious. As long as it matches your blood type, I think you're okay.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
I think so.
They say you can. Oh, is it
little-
Fight Club? You can drink up to a pint of blood before you get sick to your
Right.
stomach.
Yeah. Well, that was a fictional character, but yeah.
Right. He would remain at this job for about 10 months before being laid off. I guess the position was terminated. It wasn't even his doing. Where he would remain unemployed for 2 years, living on his grandmother's dime.
Nice.
Using her money to buy liquor and
Right.
be a piece of shit. On August 7th, 1982, he was at the Wisconsin Fair, and while at the fair, he exposed himself to a crowd of 25 women and children.
Wow.
For this, I mean, what do you think the punishment should have been for that? That's
He should at least had to spend a night or two in jail, I think. At least.
yeah. You don't think a fine and a $50 fine and court fees was good?
No, but I believe it though. I mean, for that time, and yeah, he didn't really hurt anybody.
He wasn't even put on a sex offender list or anything.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Guy he had to drink a little too much,
Well, you have that.
Let's give him a break. He's a nice white guy.
Yeah,
Nice white fellow.
Nice white guy in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's not doing any harm. On January 1985, Dahmer was hired as a mixer at the Milwaukee Ambrosia Chocolate Factory.
Finally found his calling.
The chocolate factory.
The chocolate factory.
He worked the graveyard shift overnights, and he would work there for many years while committing future murders.
From here on out, pretty
And
much.
it just seems everyone kind of has the same mentality about this, that it just seemed like it's so much creepier that he worked at a chocolate factory while he was killing people. It's just
It is. I mean, the only thing creepier was if he was like an ice cream man,
right.
Why does this popsicle look so funny?
Oh God, it's got a head on it.
Wait, is that my dog? No.
Oh man. Now, while still living at his grandmother's home and working for the chocolate factory, there was a moment where he was at a local library and he was propositioned by a man in the library. Like a guy passed a note to him and offered oral sex.
Yeah.
He must have got a gay vibe from Jeff.
Right.
Or just took a chance.
Yeah.
And
What
Jeff
the
didn't
hell?
Jeff didn't take him up on the offer, but it did kind of seem to trigger something in his mind.
He's like, wait a minute, people can do that. Like, you can do that.
I can go out and have gay sex. Like, there's other gay dudes out there.
Yeah.
And so that seemed to open up this avenue where he started going to gay bars frequently, going to bathhouses.
Right.
And this is where he would start drugging men at these gay bars in the Milwaukee area.
Right.
And he would actually even get barred from one of them after allegations that at least on 4 separate occasions he took someone in a private booth and drugged them. And one of them almost died. Like one of them
Right,
OD'd,
yeah.
spent time in the hospital.
Yep.
And at that point he was barred from that
Yeah,
particular.
he got quite a reputation around town for this
Yeah.
at this time.
No files were charged, but I guess when they saw him approaching, they would kick him out of the particular bar.
Right.
Around this time, he read a report in a newspaper. I picture like him sitting with his grandmother at the coffee table in the morning and drinking coffee, and he's reading the obituaries, and he sees this picture of an 18-year-old good-looking dude that had recently died. And at this point, he attempts to go out and dig up the corpse of the 18-year-old.
Right.
And finds that it's not as easy as you think to dig up a corpse.
Well, especially not probably in the
Fucking Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, the
you probably did it in
cold-ass
like
ground.
January, and it's like ice ground.
ice ground. Damn it.
Yeah, and so he failed at that. That I feel like he could have been Ed Gein and just like dug up bodies and had fun with them, and no one would have, no harm, no foul. No victim, victimless crime.
Yeah, he would have been better off doing that in like Florida. He should have stuck there.
Yeah,
Where the ground's nice and
a lot
moist
more moist
and
and,
warm.
mush. Swamplands.
Yeah.
Go find one of them swampy graveyards.
It's actually kind of easy to dig in the desert. I don't know that by experience.
No, it's not. Not at my house. It's like caliche here, bro.
No, too many rocks.
It's rocky.
It's pretty easy to dig out in like Sandy Valley.
Right. Do you know how many bodies I've tried to dig up and it's
Right.
just failed miserably?
You should bring them out to my house. It's pretty easy to dig out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Bring 'em out there. We'll get rid of
I'll
them.
go hit your graveyard someday.
Yeah.
All right, September 8th, 1986, Jeffrey was arrested when he deliberately exposed himself while supposedly urinating in front of children.
Nope.
Now, this was like, was this some kind of
I think I
Cub
heard-
Scouts thing? Like they were out in the woods and they were out in the woods and he was out in the woods and he was masturbating like by the river,
Right.
like where they were playing, and they saw him and he got caught, and he claims like he gets busted for it. He gets sentenced to 1 year probation and counseling, but he claimed to his family that
Yeah, he tells his family, "Oh, it's just urinating."
I was just peeing.
They weren't. Yeah. He's just peeing. Sometimes you gotta stroke it, get that flow going.
I really like to shake it a lot just to make sure.
Just to make sure.
Jesus, that is dark. So he's sentenced to 1 year's probation and counseling. Around the same time, while living with his grandmother, he steals a mannequin from a department store. And I feel like that was another. Maybe if they just had more advanced sex dolls in this day, he would have been okay.
Yeah, like the sex dolls now. He could order them up however the hell he wanted. Bare chest,
right,
black, whatever.
Yeah, he definitely liked.
Yeah,
he did not discriminate. If he found a dude attractive,
it
didn't matter what color they were.
That's
I
right.
appreciate that about him. He stole a mannequin from a department store. His grandmother discovered the mannequin and confronted him on it.
What have you heard of how he got this mannequin? I just want to.
I heard he broke out the window of a department store like in the middle of the night and just stole it.
Right, that's what I heard.
I picture him just running with this fucking thing
with under a blanket,
like alarms going off.
Just running, taking a swig of his flask.
I need some nourishment.
Dude, on the documentary, it's so freaking hilarious, right? So it cuts to this scene out of nowhere, and it's this girl. She's working in a department store. And she's just like, she's cutting the lights off. She's locking everything up. She's finishing up the cash register, cashing out, She walks over to the door and locks it. And I'm thinking at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what this scene is. He's gonna break the window and he's gonna go get. No, he's like hiding in the fitting room.
Oh,
he like
Jesus.
creeps out the side with his creepy glasses. He's like pushing him up on his nose. He's like,
I might watch this one for comedic value. It sounds hilarious.
And he runs over there, strips a mannequin down, and throws a blanket over it and carries it out. Just walks out the front door. Just unlocks it, walks out the front door, right?
Yeah.
And then calls a cab.
Wow. No.
Yes, he calls a cab and like.
Are you fucking kidding me?
The cabbie's like, hey, you need help with that? He's like, nah, I think I got it.
I got him.
I think I got it. Don't worry about it. And he's like
hand sticking out and
putting
shit.
it in the trunk.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You need to check that out. Yeah. For nothing other than comedic value. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he hid in there.
I blame his grandmother for the future bodies that,
Yeah, if she would have just left him the hell alone with that
let him
mannequin.
have his mannequin,
She was creeped out by it, supposedly. I'm like, well, dude, don't go up there. Shit.
Right.
Like, you ain't done some creepy shit in your life, old lady.
Right. I mean, you could have, bought him clothes for his mannequin and, wigs and stuff and, kept his little creepy, weird thing going and there would have been lives saved. Instead, she scolded him for having this mannequin and he got rid of the mannequin.
Because, here we go, again, apathetic Jeffrey Dahmer. He's like, whatever. I'm just trying to keep the peace.
Right.
Like, this is how he was, for a while.
Yeah, and so had she let him have his mannequin, maybe what happens next wouldn't have happened.
Well, how long would it have lasted, though?
I know. I'm being sarcastic and satire. He definitely would have still killed people.
Yeah.
That fucking mannequin.
But hey, if it saved one or two, though,
yeah, that's true.
It's worth it.
If it
saved one person, it'd be worth it.
If it kept him indoors one night and not out on the streets drugging dudes at gay bars and if it kept him indoors on September 15th, 1987, when he picked up 24-year-old Stephen Toomey and took him to the Ambassador Hotel in West Allis, maybe it would have saved Stephen Toomey from what happened.
Maybe. So we don't even know what happened technically to Stephen Toomey, but carry on.
Well, according to Jeff, what happened was he picked this dude up and he took him to the Ambassador Hotel. And this is in downtown Milwaukee, I suppose.
Right. It's a nice hotel.
Yeah,
supposedly.
it's well known in the area.
Yeah.
And his plan was to drug him and spend time with him and I guess rape him while he was asleep or whatever he was going to do.
Right.
But when he woke up in the morning, he had, I think, overdone it himself, drank too much, maybe drugged himself a little bit. I don't know what he did. But when he woke up, he found Stephen Toomey dead in bed and his neck and chest were crushed like he had just rampaged on him.
Jesus.
Yeah, blood coming out of his mouth and almost like he woke up in the middle of the night in a drunken stupor and just went crazy.
Beat him to death? How strong do you have to be to fucking crush someone's chest?
To crush a neck,
it's got to be a strong dude.
They say to crush a neck, it only takes 9 pounds of pressure. It doesn't take that much.
What they said his chest was crushed.
Maybe he beat on it. I don't know what he did, but pretty dark. Now he's got himself an issue though. Here he's in a hotel room, and he just killed a dude. Yeah. And so how is he going to get this body out? He can't put a blanket over it like the mannequin and just carry it out. Hey, checking out. It's fine.
And he didn't have any luggage.
Right.
When he checked in.
So, that's pretty savvy on him, though. So he goes down. He checks out. He leaves the do not disturb thing on his door, and he goes out and he buys the biggest.
Please don't clean up my dead body.
Right. Do not disturb the body in the bed.
He's sleeping heavily.
Right. He goes out and he finds the biggest suitcase he can buy. Brings it back to the room, stuffs Stephen Toomey's body into the the luggage and checks out. Gets a cab and takes this body back to his grandmother's house.
Now I've heard on some accounts that the cab driver actually asked him if he needed help at this instance too, and he obliged. He was like, "Yeah, sure. If you want to help me put it in there." And
That's
he was
a
like,
heavy ass bag.
He was like, "What you got in there? A dead body?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Oh God, no way.
Nah, no, that's probably bullshit.
I'm sure it is.
I heard that on one account. Also, they acted this scene out in the documentary.
Did they?
It's kind of funny because like you can kind of see in the hotel clerk's face where he's like, when he checks out with the bag and then the other guy's not there, he's just kind of like, okay, I guess so.
You didn't have a big bag when you checked in. And you had a friend with you.
And you had a person.
Now you have a big bag and no person.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks
Don't ask, don't tell.
Thanks for your service, Mr. Dahmer.
Right.
Dahmer.
So he gets the body back to his grandmother's house and proceeded to dispose of it as much as he could a week later. So he spent quite a bit of time with Stephen Hicks, which is just so creepy, knowing that he's living in his grandmother's house.
Yeah.
And he's like doing who knows what to this body. And he wasn't going to get rid of this body without a keepsake. So he bleached the head. He crushed the bones up and he pulled a Bob Berdella, crushed up the bones and put it out for the trash. Although he kept the head, which he would boil and bleach. And I believe he still had that head years later when he was busted.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Now, 9 years pass between the first and second murder. So, we talked about the hitchhiker that he killed early on. It would have been 9 years since he first killed it before he killed Stephen Toomey.
Yeah.
Shortly after this, back at his grandmother's house, his dad is getting curious about this box that he's got in his room. And I think maybe his grandmother was curious too. And his father was worried about what his grandmother might discover if she got into this box. He was worried that it would be pornography.
Right. Oh, no.
Turns out much worse.
No, not pornography.
Right. Jeff's going... his dad comes up there and he's like, "What? You need to open that box for me. I want to see what's in there." And Jeff has the fucking head of Stephen Toomey in this box.
Yeah.
And so his dad's thinking there's porn in there, and Jeff's going, "I'm not opening that box."
He pulled old Copperfield and swapped it.
Yeah. So he refuses to open for him, and what he does when his dad leaves, he takes the head out, puts some porn in there, and the next day he's like, all right, you can see in the box.
Here, looking here.
I'll come clean.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the porn.
Here's
it's some nice, it's like Playboy. It's like some wholesome porn.
Right.
He had a fucking dude's head in there the day before. So his dad, scolds him, gets rid of the porn, and bullet dodged. There's always those bullet dodging moments in serial killers.
Yeah. Dahmer has quite a few, though, which we'll get to.
Oh, man. The biggest one I've ever heard of. Now, Dahmer has opened the box. He's killed again, and this is where he triggers, he's into it now. He's like, I've done it. He killed Stephen Toomey. It was kind of like that moment which one was it? Bob Berdella, where he accidentally killed the dude with a knife because he was making him breakfast. I feel like that's his moment.
Gacy.
That was Gacy.
Yeah, Gacy did that.
Yeah, Gacy killed the dude who was making him breakfast, and he woke up to the guy holding a knife, and he killed him. And then it seemed like that triggered.
Yep.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I liked disposing of him. I liked killing him. And with Dahmer, it seemed like this so-called accidental killing where he woke up and he didn't realize what he had done.
Right.
Triggered something, because shortly after that, in 1988, he starts killing more frequently. So you got, on January of 1988, he kills 14-year-old James Doxtator. Dahmer offered him some money to pose nude for him, and this is something he would frequently do.
Right.
Moving forward,
Yeah.
he'd go to gay bars and he would offer money to dudes.
Apparently there was a shit ton of aspiring models in Milwaukee at this time.
Right. Or just dudes
Aspiring.
dudes in gay bars desperate for some cash for whatever,
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't think it would go anywhere, but they just wanted some quick cash for some photos. It's harmless. Dahmer took him back to his grandmother's house. After sex, Dahmer drugged him and strangled him. He used acid and crushed the remains.
Damn.
Yeah. And then on March 24th, 1988, he met a 25-year-old named Richard Guerrero. Richard came back to Dahmer's house for nude photos yet again. Mm-hmm. After sex, Dahmer drugged and strangled him again, performed oral on the corpse.
And this was his first interaction with a dead corpse, right? This was kind of his first necrophilia type act.
It could have been.
Right.
And it's hard to tell because it's just his word later on.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I mean, why would he lie about this?
Yeah, why would he lie? I mean, he's already saying
detail.
that he did it. It's like, I did it for this guy, not that guy. How could I do it?
How could I?
I wouldn't do it to the 14-year-old. I'll do it to the 25-year-old.
Right.
On April 23rd, Dahmer lured another young man into his grandmother's house after giving the victim a drugged coffee. This is a kind of a crazy moment. So he brings back this dude to his house, his grandmother's house, and he puts some drugs in his coffee. And while he's down there about to kill the dude, his grandmother yells down, "Is that you, Jeff?" She heard that there was another guy down there with him.
Yeah.
And he got worried about it. And Dahmer, it seems like when there was people in his family that he respected, like disappointing them was like his biggest concern, I think. You know, like he didn't care about anything else.
Right.
He didn't care about the welfare of the people he came across. It was more just like people being exposed for what he truly was. Like he wanted to maintain this facade that he had going about like he didn't achieve great things in his life, but he was still like at least a decent person in his family's eyes. That mattered to him. And so it scared him enough, the whole idea of his grandmother finding out about him killing this kid, that he ended up taking this kid to the hospital, the General County Hospital, and this dude dodged a major bullet there.
Yeah, seriously, just because of the grandmother intervention.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Did they put that scene in the movie? Because that would be a good one.
No, they didn't.
He's down there. He's like, I picture like his hands coming towards the neck as the dude's passed out, and then, "Is that you, Jeff?" Shit.
Yes, it's me. God damn it. I love you too. God.
Right.
Good night.
Yeah. So on September 25th of 1988, Dahmer moved into his own place. Working for the chocolate factory, I guess he finally saved up enough money, and his grandmother had already blocked one attempted killing on a dude, and that was enough for him to say, "Fuck this, I'm getting my own place."
Well, it's about damn time he got his own place, because he was making good
Grandma
money.
always stopping me from killing kids and dudes.
But he was making good money at the chocolate factory at this time. He was making $9 an hour, which is equivalent of like $19 an hour now.
That's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, that's good money then.
Yeah.
For not having really any experience. I mean, no college, a little bit of Army medic experience.
Right.
And, making $19 an hour, that's not bad.
Right.
Then he gets this slum apartment. But carry on.
Yep. So he gets his own place, September of 1988. His grandmother had actually had enough. I think part of it was him. He's like, all right, it's time to get my own place because I can do so much more.
Yeah, that's the
with
main
my
reason.
own place. And then the other part of it,
taking these bitches to the hospital.
Yeah, the other part of it is his grandmother had started smelling weird smells. She got tired of him bringing dudes home to the house, and it was
also at one time she questioned the trash that he was taking out because like one of the bags broke open, and like apparently when he was boiling these bones and stuff, it would create like a black soot. Like he was using a product called Soilex.
Yep. It was like a cleaning agent.
Yeah, and it would create this black soot. And she questioned him about it. She's like, there's this weird black ooze coming from these bags. She's like, what is it? And she was...
It's just body juice, Grandma.
Yes.
Leave me alone.
Like, he shrugged it off one way or another, but...
Can't kill anybody around here. It's bullshit.
I think she was afraid to really dig too deep. I think she had her suspicions at this time. Right. So she was kind of pressuring him to get out as well. Grandma. She had enough of his shenanigans.
Fucking Grandma can't even dispose of bones.
Seriously.
Always on my case.
I don't dig through your trash.
Right. So he moves into a one-bedroom apartment on North 25th Street, September 25th. Now, doesn't take long. He gets his own place. He's feeling good. The following day, he offers $50 to a 13-year-old Laotian boy to pose nude. He gave him a drugged coffee and fondled him. The boy escapes, and Dahmer was arrested. Now... he's not getting off so light this time. He gets summoned to court, and the sentencing for the assault was suspended until May of 1989. So he's got to appear in court in May of 1989. Before then, it doesn't scare him off that he's already gotten busted for sexual assault of a young teen.
No,
he's gonna do some more shit before he even goes to court for this one.
Right.
He's got to get it in while he can. So on March 20th. Dahmer commenced a 10-day Easter absence from work, during which he moved back to his grandma's home. It seemed like he just liked killing under his grandma's home.
Well,
And his grandmother was religious, so I guess he wanted to be there for her with Easter. I don't know what was going on here.
Yeah,
and this is leading up to the sentencing for his sexual assault.
Right.
He murders his fifth victim during this time, 24-year-old aspiring model named Anthony Sears. Dahmer met him at a gay bar on March 25th of 1989. He lured Sears back to his grandmother's home, where he engaged in oral sex with him before drugging him and strangling him. The following morning, he dismembered the corpse in his grandmother's bathtub. He was really, this seemed like he was the dude that he was attracted to the most, was Anthony Sears. He was an aspiring model, was a really good looking young dude.
Yeah.
And he preserved his head and this is the first one where he preserves the genitalia in acetone. I picture what does acetone look? I picture like the stuff that barbers use, like that blue jar with the
I think
where they put their combs in.
It's like, it's like formaldehyde. Just kind of keeps it from deteriorating.
Now this is super fucked up. He's working at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory, and he keeps the head and the junk in his work locker at the chocolate factory.
Where else is he going to keep it, Lauren? It's clean.
His fucking apartment? I don't know. Clean. Not his work locker.
How's he going to keep it in his apartment? He's living with his grandma.
No, he has his own apartment. He went back to stay with his grandmother for 10 days for Easter. Oh. He has his own apartment, but maybe he's worried because he's, going to court soon for the whole sexual assault thing that he's going to get a warrant to check his apartment or something. True. That's what I picture.
Smart move.
Yeah, so he keeps the head and the junk in his work locker.
Yeah.
He painted the skull as well. He would paint skulls gray to kind of like make them look fake, I guess.
Make them appear like a plastic material or something. Yeah.
And to preserve them.
It actually worked to some extent.
Yeah. And Sears' skull would remain, he would hold on to this thing all the way to the end until he was eventually arrested, his final arrest.
I think all the skulls he has right now made it to the end.
Right. Well, we'll talk about what was inevitably found in his apartment when he was finally busted. Now, on 1989, on May 23rd, he was sentenced to 5 years probation and 1 year in the House of Correction. So he was basically given a work release program. He was given 5 years probation and a year of a work release program. So he was let off quite easy yet again for the sexual assault of a young teen.
Right.
Basically, all he had to do was for a year, 12 months, he had to go to work at his chocolate factory, and then when he got off work, he'd have to go into jail at the House of Correction. And so this only lasted 10 months, though. He was actually 2 months early he was released. And he was also required to finally register as a sex offender as well.
Right. Well, during this time that he was in this halfway house or whatever you want to call it,
Correctional facility.
He got taken advantage of.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
He went home with a guy one time, and he got drugged, and he actually got sodomized with a candlestick.
Oh, I did hear about that.
Yeah, and he actually ended up passing the candlestick.
Oh.
Passing part of it back in the correctional facility. Yeah, he got a little taste of his own medicine there, a little Barbadella medicine, actually.
Good.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, so
fun fact for you.
He'd end up being released from the program after 10 months, where he temporarily moved back into his grandmother's home. So he had lost his apartment, obviously. He moved in back with his grandma temporarily, and in May of 1990, he moved into a new apartment on the Oxford Apartments on 924 North 25th Street, and this would be the infamous apartment where there would later be found by the police many disturbing things in this apartment, and he would do many disturbing things in this apartment.
Yep.
Whew.
Number 213. Another thing that pissed me off about the documentary, they put him in 214. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, even if 213
just put a new fucking thing on there.
Just put a 3 on there.
Right.
Like, it's infamous. It's not like it's a roundabout. We don't know 200s. No, it's 213.
Right.
And 13's a creepier number.
It is.
What the fuck?
And so once he gets into this apartment on North 25th Street, the spree begins. Now, it's important to mention this is a high crime area apartment complex, which actually works out to his benefit. It's easier. It seems like it's easier to coax people when their opportunities are less. Most of his victims were African American. Many of them were just minorities in general.
Right.
And he's in this high crime area, and this is when the spree really begins. This is where he's killing at a crazy rate. So on May 29th, he would pick up Ricky Beeks, who was 33 years old. I believe this was his oldest victim. He was last seen alive on May 29th, Ricky Beeks. He met him in a club and offered him money to pose for nude pictures. He then drugged and strangled him, had sex with the body. The victim's painted skull would be later recovered in his apartment.
Damn.
On June, so we had one in May. In June, Edward W. Smith, 28 years old, Dahmer met him at a bar, offered him money for sex and pictures. After sex, he was drugged and strangled. Dahmer took some pictures during the process of dismembering the body.
Yeah,
another thing he would do, he would love to take Polaroid photographs, and that's common. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people we talk about, there's so many similarities, man.
Very
like
Gacy
Randy Kraft
and Burdella type.
Randy Kraft, Gacy, Bob Burdella, big time.
Yeah.
Dahmer and Bob Burdella. Aside from Burdella, loved the torture way more.
Right.
Dahmer, it seemed like the end result was what he wanted more than anything than the killing. The killing was just something he had to do to be able to have this body to himself.
Exactly.
Whereas Bob Berdella was much sicker in that he got off on the pain of the victim.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they both like to document the whole process.
Yeah.
Dahmer many disturbing photos. You can still look up so many disturbing photos.
God, yeah.
I don't recommend it unless you got a real strong stomach, man. Some of them are so... Honestly, probably the most disturbing photographs I've ever seen on the internet were Dahmer's Polaroids. There was one where there was a decapitated black dude that was like arched over backwards like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And like it was just...
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, man, it's fucked
That's one
up.
of the famous photos.
It's like it's almost like he looked at it as art, like this really disturbing art. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, he always described these bodies as beautiful. Like if they weren't beautiful enough to him or they weren't attractive enough, he wouldn't kill them.
I believe there was a quote where he just straight up said like,
I only killed the pretty ones.
Yeah, I went in and the most attractive dude there was the one I went after.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what color they were. Nothing mattered other than his, and he was into like tall, athletic build, you know.
Right.
Like you and I would have been in danger if we'd have been in a nightclub.
Well, he only killed one white guy though.
That's true.
I think we'll be all right. Don't shave your chest.
Right? Well, if it's a dark room, you never know. Got a little sun that day. So we talked about Edward Smith. Then on September 2nd, he met a 24-year-old named Ernest Miller. Dahmer, he met him at the front of a bookstore, and then Dahmer offered him money to come home with him. After sex, Dahmer drugged him and cut his throat. He took pictures of him dismembering the body. Now, this is the first one where he cut up the body and put it in his freezer for consumption.
He was obsessed with Ernest's biceps.
So he's just going. There's nothing holding him back from just completely exploring all of his darkest fantasies. Now that he's got his apartment, he's settled in. He's done his time for the sexual assault.
Right.
And now he's just going crazy. He's doing whatever he wants. He's killing at a crazy rate. And now he's even eating his victims.
Right. And also he wasn't like the weird keep to yourself type in the apartment either. Like he actually talked to his neighbors and stuff. Like there's some neighbors that were interviewed on the thing and they were like, yeah, he used to.
There was some weird smells,
say
coming
hey
from his apartment.
This one lady though,
she smelled like chitlins.
She said, I ate one of his sandwiches. He said that man gave me a sandwich. I could have ate somebody.
Literally body.
Literally ate somebody.
Man,
so, it's crazy.
One neighbor said that it smelled like chitlins coming from his house. That it had a distinct smell, and I guess chitlins have a weird certain smell to them. And
he always had an excuse. One of my fish died, or
he had an aquarium with like exotic fish in his apartment,
or my fridge stopped working, so some of my food has gone bad. Or, he always had an excuse.
Makes you wonder, like, did like human flesh smell that much different than if you had regular frozen meat? I guess my guess would be that he tried to hold on to these bodies for as long as possible, and they were probably decomposing while he was still experimenting, taking photos and doing sexual acts on them and stuff, and that's probably why the smell.
There were some that he didn't do anything to for like a couple days. So come on.
I mean, his ultimate goal was for them to not even decompose. If he could just kill them and have their bodies stay the same way they were when they were living, that would be his.
Right. Damn nature, man.
Yeah. His biggest problem was that the bodies start to decompose. And we've actually got a quote here that proves what we're saying. This is a quote from Dahmer later in prison. It was not a case of hating them. It was just the only way I knew of to keep them there and keep them with me.
Right. Yeah, it was a power trip for him. Now, it was also, it was impossible for him to get an erection if the person was like moving too much and around and stuff. So like that was one of his biggest problems because he was, as a gay man, he was always the bottom. If the person was awake, or alive, or conscious. So, in order for him to have his turn or to be the top, that's what had to happen. That sounds crazy, but
I think that
he
mixed
wanted him
with
to
his
just not move.
I think that mixed with his I think truly he liked to be alone, but he also had sexual needs. This is just my opinion. I think the dude, like, he got some real social anxiety as a young child, moving around and stuff, and then it just implanted this thing where he didn't want to get too close to people, like, he didn't want friends and stuff like that. He just wanted to do his own thing and not be judged and just go through life, but he also had sexual needs, and so it fit him perfectly to have someone he was attracted to and to be able to do whatever he wanted to them and then not have to talk to them, not have any of that.
Yeah.
Which proves later on he would try to make zombies out of these dudes to where they were were living so that they wouldn't decompose, they weren't dead, but he wanted them there just to do what he wanted with their body. Their body was an object to him. It was
Exactly.
It was like artwork. He was so attracted to the male form,
Yeah.
that he just wanted that to himself. And on September 24th, he met David C. Thomas. That was September 24th was the day that he was last seen. Dahmer met him on the street and offered him money to come home with him. He then drugged him and murdered him without sex, taking pictures as he dismembered the body.
This is one of the different cases. He really did not want to kill Thomas. He did not want to kill this guy. He wasn't entirely even attracted to him. But he felt like if he let him go, he felt like that he could be led back, or maybe he wanted to continue the friendship or something like that, and it just wasn't an option
Right.
at this point. And he had already drugged him as well. So he knew if he woke up and was like, whoa, what'd you do to me? He could go to the cops. So this was more of a self-preservation kill than it was an actual attraction. Like he actually said later, like, I wish I didn't have to kill Thomas. Actually, Thomas had a wife and child at home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's terrible what he did to any of these guys and killing them and taking them way too early before they were supposed to die and everything. But when they have a family, it's just stings that much more.
Yeah, and he didn't lure Thomas as oh, you want to come get naked and take pictures. But he did say, like, basically, I do have money. You want to come hang out, have some beers or whatever.
Right.
He kind of lured him in that way.
Yeah.
And Thomas was a struggling father.
In the Randy
husband,
Kraft type of way.
Needed cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, I'll hang out with you for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah.
So do what I got to do, I guess.
Yeah. And so we're in 1991 now, March 7th. So there's a little break there. We got a few months where he didn't kill anyone.
Right.
He met Curtis Slaughter. Last day he was seen was March 7th. He was 18 years old. Dahmer had picked him up at a bus stop, offering him money to come home with him. He then drugged and strangled him after sex. He took pictures of the dismemberment process, and the painted skull would later be recovered from his apartment after his arrest.
Right. His MO is getting pretty regular here.
Yeah.
It's you started to see in a pattern here. I mean, I know you have for a few.
He's still experimenting
guys,
with
but
preservation and different things to preserve the bodies as much as possible, because he got off on, he would bring these skulls out and masturbate to them.
Yeah, he almost had somewhat of a shrine.
He had a goal. That was his goal, to have a full-on shrine. Like, he was going to be ordering things. He wanted it to be like a black blanket. It had to be like like a blue light or some shit. Like, he wanted to be a perfect shrine.
Figure eventually he would paint them like candy skulls, just kind of have like little flowers around the eyes and stuff.
Yeah, which I don't know. Maybe that would have saved lives in the future if he had completed his shrine, and that would have been.
It depends on how big his shrine was going to be.
Because then you can never have a big enough shrine. Like, he would just want it to be bigger. He'd like his whole apartment, you'd walk in and just be like fucking skulls everywhere.
Yeah, then he'll be want to show people, hey, check out this shrine. Ah, fuck, now I got to kill you. God damn it. All right.
You saw the shrine.
Ah, damn it. You want to check out my shrine?
Now I got to kill you.
Sure. Ah, fuck. Why'd you say that?
Now I guess you're going to be a part of it.
Right.
So that was in March, and then in April, the very next month, he met Errol Lindsay, 19 years old. He met him on the street and offered him money to come home with him. This is the first case.
God, this just makes me cringe.
Man. This is where it was like, dude, you've gone. What you were doing was
too far.
But yeah, this is where he now starts experimenting on living.
I like how we're saying this is too far, but yeah.
Yeah, now strangling them and then keeping their skulls and everything is.
But you go drilling holes in the head, that's just weird.
Yeah, this is where I start to cringe, Errol Lindsay, 19, he got them back to the house, drugged them, and then he began trying to experiment with preservation of a human body alive. Like, he wanted to keep them in a zombie state where they could do nothing about. Basically, Bob Berdella kind of perfected this, where he would inject them with painkillers to where they were like aware of what was going on, but they couldn't move, they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, he just kept coming back with the painkillers.
I think that would have been Dahmer's way to go if he was smarter, but what he would start doing is, with Lindsay, he drilled a hole in the skull and poured muriatic acid into it, wanting to basically incapacitate him to where he was alive.
Right.
I don't know if he was going to start feeding him with a feeding tube or what he was going to do, but he wanted the living body to be there, immobile, so that he could do his sex acts and whatever he wanted to the body.
Right.
That failed. Errol Lindsay died, and he actually ended up strangling him and having sex with the body.
Right. What a shocker. Yeah, that's horrible, man. Because, they noticed that there was, like, inflammation marks and stuff, even around the skulls and stuff, when they did the last, like, medical examiner investigations or whatever. So they noticed that every person he drilled into was still alive.
Yeah.
Had to have been.
Now, in May, we have the ultimate how the fuck did he get away this of all the cases we've done,
yeah.
this is the ultimate, like, Jesus Christ, this dude was just meant to keep killing. Because,
Right. It's like, what is it? Is it
inadequacies in the police?
I knew you were going to say it.
It is.
It is.
100%.
No, it is.
They were so uncomfortable with gay sex that they let a serial killer continue to kill.
Yeah.
So in May, Dahmer met 14-year-old Konorak Synthesophone. Sorry if I got that word wrong. It's real tough. It's
sounds like the first take of the telephone or something.
right.
The very first one. I call it the synthesophone. How about the telephone?
That's easy. Let's do that.
Let's do the tele.
Now, this is the brother of the. This is I believe, the younger brother of the person that he had sexually assaulted and gotten convicted for a couple of years back.
Oh, this is
the
Laotian kid.
The Laotian kid that he had sexually assaulted and gone and done the year of work release program.
You're right.
This is his brother. This is his younger brother. And he meets Konorak in front of a mall and offered him money to pose for nude photos.
That just goes to show his type was pretty specific.
Pretty specific.
He wasn't just grabbing anybody out there.
And he's living in a certain area where he's just anybody in his area. If you lived near Dahmer during this time and you were about the nightlife and you were out and about, maybe a gay dude, you're really at risk here.
Yep.
So he agrees to go take nude photos and take the money from Dahmer. And after the pictures, Dahmer drugged Konorak, performed oral on him, and then went out for a beer. Now, I read one source that said that he had actually heard he drilled into Konorak's head and like brought him to the bedroom, and like there was already a body in the bedroom, and like Konorak kind of remembers this. Now, I don't so buy that he drilled into his head because Konorak stumbles out of the apartment.
Yeah.
When Dahmer goes out for a beer, leaves him there for later, he stumbles out. He comes across some neighbors. He comes across the police. If they had seen a hole drilled in his head, there would be blood everywhere, and there's no way.
There would be no question of this was just some wrongdoing. But yeah, I think he was just seriously medicated, seriously drugged, and somewhat out of it, and just realized enough. Okay, I got to get out of here.
Apparently, there's other people that say that he was bleeding from the anus as well. Like he'd already been raped.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, anyways, he stumbles out. He comes across some neighbors and he's like speaking gibberish, like speaking Laotian, another language. He's really drugged up, and the neighbors are really concerned for his well-being, and they call the police. The police come out. Around this time, they're trying to explain to the police what's going on, and Dahmer comes back to his apartment, sees all this going on, comes walking on up.
Yeah.
This just shows you like his composure, like
totally calm.
I think part of it's the alcohol, like liquid courage, like he's just like, just that cool, just be cool, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Goes up and tells the police that this is his gay lover, that they're in a lover's quarrel, that it's fine, we've been drinking, everything's fine.
I heard also that Dahmer showed up right before the police got there.
Okay.
And he was arguing with these other neighbors, these other two women. I can't remember their names right now. I guess really not that too important. But he was arguing with them because they seen that the boy was petrified of Dahmer.
Yeah.
Like he's just terrified.
How could you not be? Yeah.
Then the cops pull up. And so these women are there too. You got to kind of put yourself in the scene. They're like, no, he's scared of him. He can't go with him.
Right.
Can't go with him, And of course, this is in the projects of Milwaukee pretty much.
And,
and they're not.
Dahmer
they're not taking this serious.
is a sex offender.
Right.
Now, standard police procedure seems to me to go, well, let's go search this guy's here. He's claiming to be in a lover's quarrel with this dude. This dude's obviously drugged up. He's scared of this guy. Let's look up, can I see some ID? Let's look this guy up.
He has his ID on him.
Yes. They don't do that.
They don't look up the ID, but they do look at his ID. But they don't dig any further than that.
Well, he seems like
they
a nice,
even follow him back to the apartment.
Yes.
They walk in, and then they see the boys' clothes are folded all nice. It ain't like they were stripped off of them or anything. They're folded nice and on the couch. And Dahmer goes on to explain, he's my 19-year-old lover. He lies about his age, obviously. The boy's only 14. Says, he's my 19-year-old lover. And, we were just, he's had a little too much to drink. I promise this won't happen again.
Yeah.
But I figure at the very least, you would be like, well, let me see his ID.
Yeah.
Let me see his ID.
Yeah. Meanwhile, supposedly the body of 31-year-old Tony Hughes, who Dahmer had killed just the day before, was in his bedroom.
Yeah.
And one of the police officers peeked in there but didn't really walk into the bedroom. Like peeked in there, didn't see visually the body in the room. And so, I mean, it was right under their nose. In the fridge were heads.
They didn't
like
want
in the
yeah.
bedroom. There was a fresh body that he had killed the day before, and like they just really. And they even admitted later on that they were so uncomfortable with the situation because it was a young gay couple supposedly in their head. As far as what Dahmer was saying, they were so uncomfortable. They even admitted they were like, we were just uncomfortable with the whole gay sex aspect of it, and so we
didn't
left.
even look into the smell.
Right,
Nothing.
And later, mild disciplinary action would be taken against the officers. So they pretty much slap on the wrist. I'm sure they maintain their jobs. Maybe they got
don't do that anymore, okay?
Yeah, if they look a little deeper.
Yeah.
And the department would actually be sued for a large sum amount of money from the family, from his family. Once Dahmer was obviously discovered to be what he actually was.
Right, because after the cops left, he finished him off.
Yeah.
He finished
So
him off.
Conorak would be put through hell after that. That night, he would have his head drilled into. Acid would be put into his brain where he would die shortly thereafter, and then the body would be dismembered. Their skull was later recovered from Dahmer's apartment. We talked about Tony Hughes. Tony Hughes, the deal with him is Dahmer had offered him $50 to come home and pose for nude pictures. Hughes was drugged and murdered. His unpainted skull was recovered from his apartment. Now, on June 30th, he's just on a complete rampage right now. This whole year of 91, he's just going crazy in this new apartment of his. On June 30th, Matt Turner, that was the last day he was seen alive. They met in Chicago at the bus station at a gay pride parade. So apparently Dahmer had made a little trip to Chicago.
Yeah, I think he went to that every year.
The gay pride parade?
Yeah, it's not too far of a drive from Milwaukee.
While there, Dahmer offered him money to pose nude, drugged him, and strangled him with a strap. After cutting up the body, Dahmer put the head in the freezer and the rest in a barrel of acid he had obtained.
Him buying the barrel was kind of funny in the documentary. Like, he just walks up like to these guys. They're just like outdoors. Like, it looks like in an alley. And they're like, yeah, we'll load it up for you. Where's your car? He's like, I don't have one. I'm just going to carry it. They're like, you're just going to carry it? Like, yeah. Just pays him and just picks it up and walks all awkwardly down the street with a barrel in his hand. Those big-ass blue barrels.
Yeah, so
what are you doing with that?
This is some crazy shit, man, because, like, we just talked about how he had met Matt Turner in Chicago and got him back to his apartment where he would dismember him and everything. And also, July 6th, he met Jeremiah Weinberger, who's 23 years old. He met him at a Chicago gay bar where Dahmer offered him money to come back to Milwaukee with him. Right. So he got two guys from Chicago to come back to Milwaukee with him.
And this is just to prove how persuasive Dahmer was. Like, Jeremiah was actually with friends at the bar. Yeah. He was actually with friends, and he was like, what do you guys think? He actually talked to his friends privately, supposedly. I guess his friends later contested to this and was like, what do you think of this guy? Is he all right? And they're like, yeah, whatever. He seems okay to us.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets him back to his apartment in Milwaukee and drugs him, strangles him, dismembers the body, takes pictures of the whole process. This is a day later, though. So he gets him back to the apartment in Milwaukee.
Right.
And Jeremiah, like, is willingly hanging out and, like, I guess what Dahmer wants, like, in a partner, like, not trying to leave yet. But the second that Jeremiah leaves, tries to leave, now they're the one surviving victim.
Yep. He's like, hey, how about one more drink? One more drink for the road.
Right.
One more drink for the road trick.
We'll hear more, but the one that later got away from Dahmer says that once he tried to leave, that's when you have to believe that pretty much every victim that came across Dahmer, it was probably the same scenario. Everything was fine until they tried to leave.
Yep.
And then everything flipped.
Yep. You're probably right.
Yeah, and you kind of think now too about like Gacy's final victim, where the kid that wanted to leave, and he's like at the door, and then he's like, "Nope, you're not going anywhere." That type of thing.
It makes you wonder because, like, if he truly just wanted to have sex with dead bodies, why not kill him as soon as they got there? Like, why indulge in consensual sex first? Or maybe he was just trying to earn their trust. Maybe he's like, I'll be at the bottom first, and then we'll see what happens.
I think ultimately he wouldn't have. His best case scenario would be for this guy that he's really attracted to just never leave the apartment. Like, just be alive, be his partner, never leave, never go to the store, never go anywhere, because he'd be so afraid of him leaving. That can never happen. People have their own lives.
Yeah.
So, like, he would allow them to be there in his company as long as they didn't want to leave. But the second they wanted to leave, that's when he's like, just a panic set in.
Yeah.
Like, you're not leaving me.
Right.
I'm not going to be alone. And if that means I have to be alone with your body, that's better
Yeah.
than being alone, period.
Thank God our dogs don't go that far, huh?
Right. Maybe he just needed a dog, man. Maybe if he just bought a dog, he'd have that companionship, and he could have a dog and a doll, I think.
A dog and a doll.
A dog and a doll from one of the stores. He just needed
Solve everything.
another mannequin and a dog.
Yeah.
And he
Okay.
might have been fine.
All right. Maybe.
On July
probably not.
15th, this is only 8 days after Jeremiah Weinberger was last seen.
Right.
He was fired from the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory for bad attendance. So this
Oh,
is something
come
that had been
on.
going on for a while. When he would meet these guys, he would end up having
Right.
to call in sick because he had to dismember their body after he killed them.
Right. Or sometimes it was just to spend more time with them.
Yep.
With the body. He was just like, I don't feel like going in the day. I got this new friend.
Yeah.
We're hanging out.
Yeah. So he's fired on July 15th. The same day, Oliver Lacey, 23 years old, was last seen alive. Dahmer had met him on the street, and they went back to his apartment. Lacey was drugged and strangled. Dahmer had sex with the body before dismembering it, and he put the head in the refrigerator and his heart in the freezer for later consumption.
He had bought a deep freezer at this time.
Comes in handy.
Yeah, they
I have
kinda-
that for hunting. I mean,
Yeah, it was just kind of like one of those square deep freezers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was odd. One of the things that was noted in the police investigation was he just had it kind of in the dining room, and it was just kind of sitting there. It wasn't even like against the wall or anything.
just
like
an island.
just kind of sitting there, like on carpet.
Wow.
Just kind of sitting there in the middle with a cord coming from it to the
You
wall.
never know when you're going to need a human heart. When you want it close by.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this takes us to his final murder, July 16th. Joseph Bradhoft, 25 years old, was last seen alive. They met at the bus stop where Dahmer offered him money to pose for nude photos. After sex, Dahmer drugged him and strangled him. This is his MO at this point.
Right.
Strangled him with a strap. He dismembered the body, and he put the head in the freezer and the body in an acid barrel. Now, this is one other thing that he had learned over the years is for torsos, he got a big blue barrel, like industrial-sized barrel, and he used acid to dissolve the torsos of his victims.
Right.
That wasn't something he was
The old
interested
Breaking
in.
Bad trick.
Yeah, he wasn't interested in holding on to the torso. There wasn't much there. He liked the skull. He would even hold on to like hands. Like he had hands,
But
I believe, in his.
What's so odd though is like the torso is what attracted him to these guys though at first.
Their lean build.
Yeah, it was the torso with the hairless chest. But then
But
afterwards,
that's the quickest thing to decompose, though.
But then afterwards, he's like, I can't. Yeah, well, maybe you can't really preserve a torso the way it looks.
It's all organs
because you
and-
kind of need the skin for it to be attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess he'd have to get rid of them. I could picture him just crying, dropping the torsos in there.
It was beautiful. Yeah, so he used the large barrel for the torso of Joseph Bradhoff, his final victim. Now this takes us to, this is the end. July 22nd, 1991, he finally met his match. Dahmer approached three men with an offer of $100 to accompany him to his apartment and pose nude for photographs.
Yeah.
One of which was Tracy Edwards, who's 32 years old.
Right. Now, here's the thing, though. The other two dudes said that they would come,
Really?
but they weren't going to pose. But he gave them a different address.
Oh,
They were
my
like,
God.
yeah, he was like, oh, well, yeah. He was like, he approached Tracy or whatever and was like, hey, if you want to ride with me, he's like, we can just have them meet us there later for drinks or whatever.
So he's comfortable.
And he gave them a different address.
Right, so Tracy's thinking, my boys will be here soon.
Yeah, my boys will be here.
It'll
What's
be
the big deal?
fine. Nothing can happen.
Right.
Once back at the apartment, things got weird. So Tracy's there. He's standing there looking at. We talked about how Jeff had a tropical fish tank.
Yeah.
And Tracy's
yeah.
standing there looking at it, and while he's got his back turned looking at the fish tank, Dahmer slaps he slaps a pair of handcuffs on one of his wrists. He's only able to get it on one of his wrists, and at that point, Tracy's like, "Hey, what's going on?
What the hell?
What's going on here?" And he's already noticed some strange things about the apartment. He's the deep freezer you're talking about, like on a rug by itself, and then like
Weird in the dining room.
yeah, weird smells and just.
Don't you eat over there? Oh, yeah, I eat over there.
Yeah, eat over there. Right? And so things got weird, and at one point when they're like doing some stuff, Dahmer notes that he's going to be eating his heart later.
So he says.
Naturally,
man.
that freaks Tracy out a bit.
So Tracy says, this doesn't sound like Dahmer, but then again, all of his other victims couldn't have
I
told
think
us.
he's gotten brash at this point. I think it's
think
very
so?
possible that he said that.
You think he's
yeah.
just taunting him?
He's got another dude's heart in his freezer right now. At this
Yeah,
point.
but nothing led you to believe that he's a process killer, though. like that he enjoys this taunting,
Getting
this
off on
killing
the
of somebody.
right.
Like he just never seemed to like that. But
we don't have a lot of voices saying otherwise because he killed everybody else.
Yeah,
you know,
right. I get you.
Yeah. So at some point, Tracy made him feel comfortable enough. That's one thing I think Tracy was real smart in, that he's like, okay, if I try and make a run for it right away, when Dahmer slapped this thing on my wrist, my odds aren't good. He tried to get comfortable. He tried to get Dahmer comfortable with the fact that he wasn't leaving. I think he sensed that Dahmer didn't want him to leave, and if he kind of played it cool, like he went in the bedroom with him for a while, and then when he came out to the living room, he noticed that he never locked the front door when he came in.
Right.
And so he sees his opportunity. He punches Jeff Dahmer in the face, knocking him down, and takes off for the front door and is able to get out the front door.
Right. And real quick, Dahmer went through like extreme measures to secure his apartment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for people coming in.
It's people coming out.
It was so people couldn't get out. He had like multiple locks on his front door so that even if you obviously you unlock them from the inside, but even if you did, it would take time. It would take a lot of time to unlock them. He had like 7 deadbolts on his front door. And then he had security cameras installed. Like he knew where people were in his apartment.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's just something to note. He wasn't doing it for security reasons, but it was easy to justify that it was for security reasons because of the area that he lived in.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Tracy punches him and is able to get out the front door. I don't know how many locks he had engaged at that moment. Come on. It's like a horror movie. Yeah.
Hey, what's the code to
While you're down there, tell me. So he gets out and he is able to flag down a police car, and he's got handcuffs on one hand. The police officers happen to be Rolf Mueller and Robert Ralph. He leads the cops back to Dahmer's apartment. Once they get to the apartment, Dahmer answers the door, and he indicates to the police that the key to the handcuffs is in his bedroom. Yeah, there'd been a little lover's quarrel. I'm sure he thought he was going to get out of this one just like he did with the Laotian boy that he killed.
Right.
Once inside the bedroom, Officer Mueller saw an open drawer in the bedside table in his bedroom, like an end table, and noticed that there were some Polaroid photographs in there, like a stack of them. And it caught his eye because they were disturbing photos of what appeared to be dismembered
He wasn't
human
even
bodies.
sure what he was looking at. He was like, is this some kind of joke? Is this like a movie set? Like, what is this?
Yeah. Once Dahmer got confronted by Mueller with the photographs, he started to fight. And so that was that point they realized they had something. Dahmer put up a fight, and then the officers were able to get him under control, handcuff him. And once
they proceeded to check the rest of the apartment.
Yeah. So once they started looking around Dahmer's apartment, they found not only the photos of the dismembered bodies, but they found body parts in the refrigerator, including heads.
They were like, hey, Dahmer, you got any beer in here? Holy fuck!
While we're here, we're going to get to the bottom of these photographs. I'm going to get a beer. What the fuck? Yeah. In Dahmer's freezer, investigators discovered an entire torso. So it must have been one of the torsos of the guys that he was most attracted to and he was trying to preserve.
Right.
A bag of human organs and flesh stuck to ice at the bottom of the freezer. 2 human hearts and a portion of a male arm muscle, each wrapped in plastic bags upon the shelves of his refrigerator. Also, a total of 7 skulls, some painted, some bleached, were found in his bedroom and inside a closet. A total of 4 severed heads were found in his kitchen in the refrigerator.
Right.
The police would obviously quarantine the area. They would bring in suits, like hazmat suits.
Yeah.
There's classic video of them like wheeling out on dollies, like his freezer that was all wrapped in tape.
And then just boxes and boxes.
Yeah.
Jars of male genitalia and just all kinds of just nasty ass shit.
A total of 74 Polaroid photos detailing the dismemberment of his victims were found. Not a lot of room for argument from his side. It's like,
nope.
There's photos.
See, he's being questioned right now. While they're searching and pulling all the stuff out, he's not just hanging out in the apartment going, oh, don't touch that. Don't touch that.
Right.
He's down at the station already.
Yeah.
He's being booked.
They're tearing things apart.
The lead detective is questioning him. And
they also found, real quick, 2 entire skeletons, a pair of severed hands, 2 severed and preserved penises, a mummified scalp, and a 57-gallon drum in which they found 3 dismembered torsos that were dissolving in an acid solution.
Right. So during all this, the detective is talking to him or whatever, and after several hours, he gets Dahmer some coffee and a cigarette, and So he sits down at first he sits down and he's like, so tell me about the head in the fridge, and Dahmer is just cool as ever. He's like, I don't think it's in my best interest to talk to you about that. Mm-hmm. He just stays real chill about it, and that catches the detective off guard. He's like, oh shit, didn't ask for a lawyer, didn't ask for anything.
Right.
So eventually he befriends him and wears him down or whatever. And this whole time the detective's getting calls. And it's like, hey, we found this, we found that. And Dahmer can hear it.
Yeah.
So finally he's like, all right, well, if I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you from the beginning.
Right.
So he starts all the way back to the hitchhiker when he was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so the detective is listening to this, and he's like,
Stephen Hicks, that's
his name. So he puts his pen and paper down. And he's like, this guy's full of shit. Like, he's just crazy, right? It's just
until he starts getting all these calls.
Until he starts getting more calls, and they're like, no, this guy's for real. Like,
we found a barrel with 3
skulls,
torsos and skeletons,
and he's like, okay. He stumbles around. He's like, where's my pen? Okay,
state that again, please.
Start from the beginning, please,
yeah.
Mr. Dahmer.
Jesus.
So he starts over and gives a full.
Do you think there was some? Do you think there was some relief from Dahmer as far as being caught? Because he always knew that he had a sickness, and he
was getting sloppy at the end on purpose. I think.
Yeah,
he was just tired, man.
That tends to happen a lot. He did seem to have remorse. Now, some people think it was fake. Some people think he was just.
I think everyone has remorse when they're caught for shit, but I think also at this time he was starting to realize that there was no real. There's no real medicine for this issue he had. There was nothing that was going to scratch this itch that he had. He just kept trying shit. Like, he even admitted, he's like, I just ate them just to see if like having them with me would
if I could fill a void or whatever,
that would do something for me. And I think
he did say that made him feel as though they were always with him when he ate them.
Right. But I think even that wore off, and so he was like, what do I do? It's just like I have this itch that just can't be scratched. And I think he was just starting to get depressed. Like, I'm just a broken person.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for what I did, but I'm just broken. It's like you almost feel a little bit of empathy for him.
Yeah, and here's a quote from him after his arrest. I know society will never be able to forgive me. I know the families of the victims will never be able to forgive me for what I have done. I promise I will pray each day to ask for their forgiveness for when the hurt goes away, if ever. I have seen their tears, and if I could give my life right now to bring their loved ones back, I would do it. I should have stayed with God. I tried, and I failed, and I created a Holocaust. Now, he would later end up.
I don't think he created a Holocaust. I don't think he's.
He would blame his lack of.
Great.
He would blame his father's lack of installation of religion into him growing up as part of why he did what he did, because he didn't feel like he had to be held responsible for anything that he did. Because if he was atheist and there was no one that created him and no one watching over him and no one. Like, he felt like, well, it's a lawless world then. I can do whatever I want.
I can do whatever I want.
I am my own God, in a sense.
There's no greater power, so...
Yeah, he blamed his father. He blamed his father for installing evolution into him because his dad was into science and stuff like that. Right. And if he had been taught that Jesus was, if he'd been taught Jesus was his God and everything, then it would be fine. But
yeah, you think so?
No,
probably not.
That's when I was like, dude, I like that he showed remorse and apologized and said that what he could do could never be undone, and if he could give his life and yada yada, that was all great. But when then he starts turning blame on his father for,
man, this is the thing.
It's like, come on, dude.
It's like you like to think people can change and reform, but like, I grew up in a Christian family, and I seen a lot of people come and go in churches that I've been in. Come in, they beg and they ask for forgiveness for the shitty stuff that they've done, and they seem so genuine for a little while.
But then they do it again.
And the next thing you know, they're slipping a little bit more. Well, quote unquote slipping. You know what I mean? To the Christians, I mean, damn, if you're not fucking praying and not doing anything else, and reading your Bible or whatever, then you're slipping. But they would go right back to where they were. Yeah, and. You just see it over and over again. You're like, after a while, you're like, man, can people really change? Like, are people just bad people, or
no,
or not necessarily bad people, or is what they're doing really a bad thing? Right. Like sometimes, I mean, obviously in Dahmer's case it is. Yeah. But I'm thinking on a much lower scale here.
Dahmer had a sickness, and he would even say like he wishes he could turn off whatever it was, but even when he was in prison, he still had the same urges.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
For real. So Dahmer initially pleaded not guilty, but later he confessed to the killings during police interrogation and eventually changed his plea to guilty by virtue of insanity.
Yeah, so he tried to say that he was insane, that he couldn't stop these urges to basically have sex with dead bodies. His need for this was out of his control, is what he tried to say, and the jury found that to be bullshit. I believe the majority of the jury found him to be fit for trial, and that he was well aware of what he was doing, and that he was aware that what he was doing was wrong, and so he would end up being charged with 15 consecutive life terms in prison, with an additional tacked on later on, which ended up being like 900 and something years, because Wisconsin had no death penalty during this time. So
yeah, it was a 10-2 majority vote by the jury. I wonder what those two people thought. Well, they probably just thought he was insane.
Right. Which he was. I mean, he was, I don't know. It's tough, because it's like
He definitely had a mental illness.
He did. He had a sickness that he couldn't stop himself, but at the same time, like, he was well aware that what he was doing was wrong. And it's like, you can make the same argument for like pedophiles. Like, they have a sickness, they're attracted to children. Right. They know what they're doing. If they act on it, they know what they're doing is wrong, and they need to be locked up.
Right. And once in prison, of course, there's a lot of people coming out for blood on Dahmer.
Right.
I mean, being a high-profile murderer and killing a lot of black men. Yeah. And, some people thought it was a racial thing. Mm-hmm. But he at least confessed it was just that's what he was attracted to. But that next July, a convicted drug dealer tried to cut his throat with a razor blade attached to a toothbrush handle, which he kind of cut him up pretty good, but no real damage. He just got
scarred up a little bit.
Superficial cuts. Yeah, he was fine. So later, in 1994, it was November 28th. Dahmer and two other inmates were assigned to clean the staff bathroom of the gymnasium, which is weird because the guards left them alone, which was not supposed to happen. So there's a lot of conspiracy surrounding this.
Yeah, because Carver, the guy that they get left alone with, had been saying to prison guards and all over the prison that if they left him alone, he was a killer. Like,
Carver was a black man
Yeah.
who was known to be racist. He had been done wrong by a lot of whites in his life, at least he'd felt so. And then he had also known Jeffrey's track record of killing,
young black men.
At least, 13 black men?
The majority
of his victims were black.
Right.
So the guards left them alone to do their work for about 20 minutes, starting at 7:50 a.m.
Yeah.
And then later, Dahmer was discovered. He was unconscious, and his head and face were just covered in blood.
Him, along with another inmate as well.
Right.
Which was, the other inmate was a white supremacist, right?
He was, who murdered his wife and then tried to blame it on two unexisting black men.
Right. His name was Jesse Anderson. He was 37 years old.
Right. So, and the third inmate who was present that day was Christopher Scarver.
Yeah. And he came out and did interviews later, and he said that, they knew, like the prison guards and stuff knew that if they left Carver alone with these two guys, they knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
And that they wanted it to happen, and Scarver was happy about what he had done. So
yeah.
And it was done with like a barbell, right?
Yeah, supposedly.
And then there was also a bloody broomstick.
He killed Anderson with the broomstick, and then killed Dahmer with the barbell, supposedly. And Scarver said that Dahmer did not even try to fight back at all. He just totally accepted it. He just had no fight in him whatsoever. I don't know. People suspect that maybe Dahmer felt like he deserved it. Mm-hmm. And then some people said that Dahmer put himself in the situation because he was a Christian now, supposedly, and suicide is a sin. Yeah. So if somebody else kills you, it's a release. You're out of here.
Right.
So maybe that was part of it. There's a lot of conspiracy about it. The guards were never charged. Nothing was ever brought up because there's just prisoners. And Scarver was given another life sentence. Oh, whoop-de-doo, Basil.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
He doesn't give a shit. So that is the demise of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, what are your final thoughts on Dahmer? I went into it wanting to hate him as much as I hated some of the other people, but I didn't hate him as much as I hated like William Bonin, because William Bonin was so about they
were part
Bob
of the
Berdella and Bonin, to me, the two that stick out the most as far as people we've done so far, and even Richard Ramirez, because they just loved inflicting pain on the victims, whereas Dahmer was more about the end result than it was the killing itself. I think most people would agree they'd rather be a victim of Dahmer, unless you were one of the few unfortunate ones that he drilled into the head of while you were drugged up. That was
right. But I think terrible. even they didn't know what was going on at that time.
But the horror of what he did was more what he did to the bodies after he killed them, which is,
the crimes against humanity that were committed here were just, they were just so atrocious that That's why he's
Disturbing.
top 3 serial killers of all time, easy.
Right.
Yeah.
And he had such a normal seeming, like, outward appearance to the public.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But
I mean, what do you think? Do you think he lured people back the way he said he did, or
what, with
do
money?
you think it was more like his like the last guy, Tracy Edwards, had said? Because Tracy Edwards claimed that he wasn't offered money, and he just went back to Dahmer's for some beer. Mm-hmm. But I think Tracy may have been embarrassed to say why he was really going to Dahmer's apartment.
Oh, for sex?
If Dahmer, yeah, he may have been trying to cover it up. Or some people think that Dahmer lied about the way he got his victims to make his victims seem less innocent.
Yeah.
It may be.
I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe he was just up front with them. He's like, hey, come back to my place for some dick and noodle soup. And they were like, what? Chicken noodle soup. I'm sorry.
Dick and noodle soup.
I'm sorry.
You caught me off guard there. Oh,
you thought the jokes were over.
Right?
I've been saving that bitch for a long time.
Sorry if we were, there wasn't as many jokes. We're a little low energy today. It was just like, I think the preparation for this one took a lot out of us. There's a lot to Dahmer. And when you're doing like a big name like Dahmer, that you're going to have people that have to have their say, like, you got this wrong or you missed this.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we get this shit straight first.
We tried, though. I mean, but it's still, I'm sure we got some shit wrong. I'm sure we did. And I'm sure we missed some things, because people are crazy about Dahmer. So,
yeah. All right, creepers. Welcome back to the present. Hope you enjoyed that little blast from the past. I sure did. I listened to little bits of it, and I just realized how terrible we were, I feel like that's everything. That's everything in art. Everything that you do, really, it sucks. Like, you always look back and go, man, I was garbage. And you think, like, you see that pattern enough, and you think, wait a minute, am I always going to look back and think I'm garbage? So I'm garbage right now. I'm kidding. It's totally toxic way to think. But speaking of toxic, let's do the opposite of toxic, which would be non-toxic, which would be organic, which would be good for you, like Oh My Gaia. Oh My Gaia is an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural paraben and aluminum-free organic ingredients. They have a ton of scents over there. Or if you don't want to scent at all, you can have unscented. Maybe you already have a body oil or something that you like, but you just want, to keep the odor down on the armpit area or wherever you put it. But there's vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. One of my favorites is Egyptian musk. I also love barbershop. I'm not sure if she has that one though. Sometimes it's a limited time thing. I think that one was a limited time. But I'll tell you something that's not limited time. True Crime Pine, which is our personal scent. It has our old school logo on it. It's got our mug shots. It's pretty dope. But if you finally decided that you want to try Oh My Gaia, you're like, you know what? These guys, they actually sound like they believe in it, which we do. I have like 4 jars in my bathroom. And that's just 4 jars for me. I just like to have choices of what I smell like. Okay? But you can use code CREEPER if you want to try it for 15% off at ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com, or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram. All right, guys. We're not going to do shout-outs in this one for reviews and stuff. We're going to get that on the next regular freebie episode because usually these episodes are a bit longer. So, we don't want to take up all the time. But we appreciate everyone, even you freeloaders, guys. Of course, we appreciate it. We get comments all the time. We're like, it wasn't for freeloaders. I know. It's just a joke. It's funny. It's just all good. We love y'all. Thanks for listening. TrueCrimeGuys.com. All the episodes are on there. Also links to merch, stickers, Patreon, all the good stuff. You can go from there. Social media, Twitter, True Crime Guys, Facebook, True Crime Guys, Instagram, True Crime Guys. It's all good. If you just Google that, you can find it. You can also follow me on social media at @AndI'mMichael. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and then I also run the True Crime Guys regular Facebook page. The True Crime Guys closed group is also pretty cool. There's lots of like-minded creepers on there sharing all kinds of inappropriate memes and such. So, all right, guys. Until next week, thank you guys so much for all your support and your love. And thanks for listening. Go leave a review. Tell a friend. Keep Creeping, y'all.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.